when you're looking at the ecosystem opportunity in front of you, saying I identify 1% as our market share that we want to capitalize on, in let's say 5 years, round number sake. But I know right now, if I do the math on it, I drag the spreadsheet, I can't get there in 5 years. Mathematically, I can't get there fast enough. That's the inorganic component you're describing, which is recognizing the pattern, which comes from experience and reading and learning, right? And so the reason I give that entire backstory is what you're describing is really interesting because you specifically said, I want to be a growth agency. I want to be a growth business and focus on an end game 5 years or whatever down the future. Yeah. And to get there, I can't do it by myself. So I need to go and capitalize and then go and source talent. How do you go through that decision process? How do you know who to work with and who to partner with? And talk to me about that process for a little bit.
Actually, you don't know. And that's the thing. So if I look in the back mirror, you come to these pivots where you need to decide, are we going to go with this route or are we going to take that route or that route? And at the end, you had to choose one route. In our case, we were looking to partner with more of a global approach that was, really international, strong in that ecosystem, or we could move something that was more geographically within our reach, which also could be able to add on a little bit of extra capital, and we would have an asset by being listed of Nasdaq First North. So we said that could be a great platform for us to add on new partners for having them sort of committed in the same way that we were. So we were choosing between various options, and we built that up already after 12 months because we started off zero revenue, and then we were at the level saying that okay, we're going fast, but we can go faster, and then which avenue should we take here? And then we decided on one avenue, which was going the way of being listed. It's a little bit of a challenging process, but you can do it, and adding some capital into that, and it had its upside, but we also realized actually 2 years into that process, this is actually a really challenging platform because it comes with lots of limitations. If you want to grow fast, we can't be transparent. Whenever we communicate something internally, we have to communicate to the market. Whenever we do this, you have to do that. You are involved in a sort of reporting framework that takes a lot of resources and energy out of the speed and the sort of the operative KPIs that I want to use. Instead,
and this is all, just so we're clear, this is all because you went the route first of saying we found this public, if you will, opportunity where we could acquire and partner with, and now you're regulated. So now it changes the demographic and the dynamic you have with the market to your description. Okay. All right. That's interesting.
And I'm not saying that, it was a wrong decision. Those were the learnings from that decision. So then we realized sometime along that way that, okay, this asset, we're going to, it's going too slow again. So we need to shift that asset. And so this was actually in 2020. Now we're into 2021. We decided, okay, we need to shift this asset. So then we started to work on setting up the platform differently. So we did the public to private transition in 2022 and got a new major private equity player coming in and supporting us, and all built on the vision that we have set where we want to be. And along the way, of course, we were growing nicely. So we came from zero, and then we had set sort of 100 million target, and we were, 1/3 there. And with this new platform, we realized that now we can actually speed up. We've seen already now we've done 3 acquisitions so far since they came in, and this year we might be half there already, and hopefully in a year or two we're going to be there. So it's going to go a little bit faster than we thought. So now you start thinking, well, we're probably thinking too small. What's the next play? What does it look like next? And it's super, super interesting. It's just so fun to be able to execute on these sort of audacious goals. I think the most important part there, which I think most smaller players would be challenged by, is that they are also always considering, what's my space in this? I don't want to share. I want to be cautious. So, of course, at the moment you start to want to broaden quickly. If it's not a pure SaaS exercise and you need to have more talents in, you also need to be prepared to sort of share that. And I think that's fine. It's actually a good feeling to know that, more people are making good business out of this.
Well, but I like that. Let's highlight that for a second, because this idea of letting go of it a little bit, because there's obviously 2 ways to go here. You say, it's my baby, I built it, I care about it, I love it. And you sort of like love it to death in some ways. You limit your ability to grow and scale because control and the sort of opportunity, if you will, to be the directive, to be the one in charge, overshadows this idea of growth, versus what you're describing is a purely business mindset, growth mindset, and focusing explicitly on this idea of what are the mechanisms, the levers we should pull to get to this outcome. So I think part of it is you get the goal, you get your 100 million, like you said, or whatever goal that you want to get to. That's important. And then you reverse engineered it, which frankly, I think more folks should do across business in general. I know some SaaS players do, but it's more than that. So that's actually a really fantastic point in terms of thinking about a little bit less control, a little bit more diversity.
Actually, the reverse engineering, I think, is an understated, you can say, like a tactical tool, how you could use it. And it has such a great impact because you can do that on so many things, to reverse engineer a lot of activities. So you can do it for sort of, they say, the bigger goal that I'm talking about, but it could also be when you do sort of an M&A plan, 12-month cycle, or really, how do we take the next client? What do we need to do? Where, how big is it going to be, and do that, and then you just reverse. So you can do it on so many activities in your business. It is a super strong, I think, exercise to go through. And once you learn to reverse engineer, you can also start finding the, instead of doing things sequential, what can we do in parallel? What can we actually take out? What can we automate? So all of a sudden you realize that we can go at a light speed if we get this right, and we will never get it right, but we will get it somewhat right, and we will correct, and we will get it better and better and better. And it's like the merry-go-round. You push. All of a sudden we're starting to realize and see, wow, now it's actually moving by itself, and just like a big machine going. And that's a good feeling when you get there.
Yeah.
Of course, we're still a super small business, but if you look on the history and how far we come, I'm pretty proud of everyone. And then the other thing is the passion and the love. That's not in the brand. It's not about the product. It's not about the partner. It's really about the people. I must say, I really love my colleagues. To work with these colleagues, you see people thrive. I thrive. I love it. And you have, it's just extremely exciting to work with people that have the same sort of passion. It's fun to go to work. You wake up and you pretty much jump out of bed. So people know that I'm authentic. They know that I'm transparent. They know that I'm passionate. And and they, a lot of them are, of course, 20, 30 years younger than me, but they still are challenged to keep up with me, I'll be honest, to stay fired and ready to crush it.
I love that. First off, don't date yourself like that. You are 20 years young, my friend. But bigger picture here, what I'm hearing you talk about that I love, and I think is the most important piece, is that you and I spent, call it 20 minutes talking business. We talked about structures. We talked about, zooming back to 30,000 feet, looking at the landscape of the problem, the opportunity, and dissecting it. But you landed the plane here at the end. You really anchored in this idea that it's all about the people. It's about the love, the passion, the commitment to winning together and to being effective, in that you're trying to solve for a customer. You're trying to run a business. I get all of that. But at the end of the day, we all choose to wake up, get out of bed, and go do something to earn a living. And they choose, your team, your colleagues, your peers, they choose to work with you because you facilitate that love, that respect, that kindness that you're describing. And I admire that. So I'm really glad you shared here. It's great.
I think there's one important thing in that, and that's when you talk about these 30,000 feet and then going down on sort of to the ground again and doing the work, then going up and look, where are we heading, so to say. It's really a sort of an iteration. You're going back and forth and doing that. And because never forget the details. Remember my background being in telecom, looking into every details, because if you don't get those details and get sort of the oversight, you never get the gut feeling. You never get that. You have to understand the details to be able to understand the whole. And at least not necessarily know all the details, but understand the details.
Yeah. And really focus on it.
Yeah, and what that means in practice, let's say you bring it up and we say, okay, we're going to look on all of the return of the capital that we put into this. And the capital that we put in is not necessarily cash, that's people. So we put sort of people on the bottom. And then on top of that, that's going to be sort of our machine to generate revenue and generate costs. So where we do it right, we want to add more because that generates more revenue. Where we do it wrong, we need to shift. So you have to be sort of operationally very tactical and follow that. And then the other challenge is when you're in an ecosystem or a partner setup where the partner itself is have a product that develops rapidly, so really. So it's shifting from being sort of within marketing, going into CRM, going into service, and adding on sort of an app ecosystem around that. The skill set needed shifts over time as well. And you realize that you're starting to realize our clients are starting to look different. They are actually a lot bigger. The requests, it's not led by a certain type of questions. Now it's led by another type of questions coming in when we sell. So that's also something you need to keep track on. So you can't do this on your own. You have to be a broad group of skill set with really, I think, I heard the phrase, I think it was Elon Musk saying, you need to get the vectors aligned with all your your colleagues.
Yep. Actually, it's interesting. Dharmesh, the co-founder of HubSpot, the CTO, talks about getting your vectors
maybe
aligned
that's
a lot.
where I heard it.
Yeah. Elon might have as well, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
Look, this has been fantastic, insightful, interesting. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate your insights. I mean, I think folks listening to this will hopefully take a bunch away in terms of how to think about scaling into an ecosystem, being mindful of obviously the steps along the way, monitoring, and really focusing on the people element first and foremost. Thank you for joining the show. For everyone listening, this has been Outcomes. Obviously, we're really excited to have super special guests like this every time. If folks want to get in touch with you, how do they reach out? Where do they find you on the internet?
I mean, they take LinkedIn. I think that's the best one, and I'm trying to be really diligent and respond, and I'm more than happy to share things. And a show like this, it's hard to become sort of practical in detail, but if people have sort of direct questions, I'll give my input to it, and that's whatever that's worked. That I've been past a few things, so there's something I learned along the way that I'm more than willing to pass on.
I love that. I love the offer to help. Again, thank you all for listening. This has been Outcomes. Remember to like, subscribe, comment on Apple Podcasts, find us on YouTube, all the good things. Reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. Always happy to chat. And thank you as always for listening. And again, Joakim, thank you, my friend. It's been great having you on the show. Appreciate it.